My name is Shane Christopher Neal from the BS Live Rocks Entertainment Group. It's a privilege to be here as a day host, and there's some great sessions going on, including this one, which you're going to hear right now. It is the 12:05 session here. This is Sheraton Hall C, just in case you're wondering. Truth, Technology, Money, and Music. And it's all sponsored by the Songwriters Association of Canada, Fair Trade Music, and Gold Entertainment Accountants. There's a lot of change going on, as usual, here in the music industry. And for too many years, the creative community has had a tendency to let the suits take care of it all. Now, for the first time, music creators around the world are working together on initiatives for a fair, sustainable, and transparent music ecosystem. The session will tell you what's up and how you can participate with global leaders in this movement. Please welcome the Managing Director of the Songwriters Association, Isabelle Crack.
Thank you. I know you don't need another introduction, but I really felt I needed to do this one. I am thrilled to introduce the actual sponsor for today's panel. I can attest, as the managing director of a not-for-profit, that support is more than often difficult to come by. It was therefore to my great surprise and delight when Michelle Gold gave me a call to offer the sponsorship of today's panel. Both Jay and Michelle have been especially generous with their time and advice to the SAC and to its members, and I'm very happy to have this chance to thank them. Thank you, guys. And most especially to Michelle, whose personal motto appears on their homepage. She works hard for the money, so hard for it, honey. She works hard for the money, so you better treat her right. Here she is.
I know no one will mind if I spend a minute thanking Isabelle for her enormous contribution to Songwriting Association. As managing director for the past 20 years, she's focused on the business of music, involved with Neighbouring Rights of Canada, the Canadian recording industry, just to name a few of the industry-related tasks that she's given her time to and made major contributions. I think this is the perfect segue to let everyone here know how amazing Songwriting Association of Canada is, how it's one of the best organizations that exists in this country, that the level that SAC provides to songwriters and music creators is more than outstanding. It's one of the most important memberships that you'll want to have. If you're not a member, I promise you, you will never regret joining. The membership booth is located at 115. On SAC's website, SAC states their purpose. The SAC exists to nurture, develop, and protect the creative business and legal interests of music creators in Canada and around the world. If you're looking for support, opportunities, networking, and protecting your work, you will not find a better community and advocates who will work on your behalf. SAC began in the mid-1980s with a group of songwriters, including Mr. Eddie Schwartz, who is with us today, and gradually organized into an established industry presence and source of information and dedication to their members. We are all here for today's topic, Fair Trade Music International. SAC is the major force behind the establishment of Fair Trade Music Certification Service. It's a new, transparent way of distributing funds. All parties are involved with the creation of music. The panel, Mr. Luke McMaster. Luke is a Canadian singer-songwriter who has written and produced music for Rihanna, Nick Lacey, as well as opened for Christina Aguilera and Michelle Gold. Luke's song, Good Morning Beautiful, on his solo album, All Roads, rose to the top #3 spot on the US Billboard AC radio charts. Luke was the first Canadian artist to apply for Fair Trade Music. Suzanne Combo. Suzanne is involved with her own new solo project, as well as the Guild of the Artists of Music, known as GAM, of which she is co-founder and general manager. GAM represents the rights of French singers and songwriters in the French music industry. She's also co-founder and director of International Artists Organization that represents the rights of featured artist International Music music industry, and Suzanne also represents my rights. Safan Javed. Safan is an associate of that prestigious firm, Taylor Klein Obala. His practice generally focuses on intellectual property, business matters, as they relate to the intersection between law and music. Safwan co-founded the Juno-nominated, twice-certified gold recording group Wide Mouth Mason. The group has toured extensively over the past 2 decades with the Rolling Stones, AC/DC, ZZ Top, the Guess Who, and Michelle Gold. I thought I'd have a better laugh. Safwan is board member of SAC and SOCAN, Fairtrade Music International, and Art Starts. Mr. Eddie Schwartz. Eddie is the chair of Fairtrade Music International. He is best known for writing classic hits such as Hit Me With Your Best Shot, Don't Shed a Tear, The Doctor, just to name a few. As well, his songs have been recorded by artists as Joe Cocker, Carly Simon, Donna Summer, Rascal Flatts, and Michelle Gold. Eddie is a leading industry authority on copyright and other issues affecting music creators and has speaking engagements around the world. We are very privileged to have him here today. Mr. Greg Johnson. Greg has been in the industry for 15 years and is a respected songwriter, producer, composer, and session musician, and is classically trained pianist. Just a few of his diverse talents, Greg has worked as a composer, songwriter, or producer for Nick Lacy, Ron Sexsmith, Olivia Newton-John, Amy Skye, Mark Jordan, Christopher Ward, Rex Goody, Kaylin Porter, and Michelle Gold, just to name a few. Thank you for your attention. It's been a pleasure to introduce this session. Here's the moderator for this panel, Mr. Greg Johnson.
Thanks, Michelle. And just on behalf of the SAC, I would like to thank Gold Entertainment and Associates for all the work they've always supported the SAC a lot, and they've always supported me personally around tax time, so I appreciate that as well. And thanks for all those introductions. I thought I was going to have to do that, so now I don't have to. You don't have to listen to me stumble through that. So I can take my glasses off now. Cool glasses. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I think Eddie, do you want to just maybe jump into this little prezi to?
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Thanks everybody for being here. It means a lot to us that you're here to share this with us. So I'm going to just go through, there's been some tremendous progress, I think, in the music creator and artist community over the last few years globally. And that's for the first time in history. So I've got just a 5-minute slideshow here that's going to give you an idea of how much progress we've made in the last few years in terms of organizing music creators around the world. So something like 500,000 music creators are now members of various alliances. Songwriters, composers, and artists have now organized and are working together on 5 continents. So let's go through those very quickly so you guys know what we're talking about here. So where are those alliances and who are they? We're going to start with EXA, which is the European Composer and Songwriter Alliance, which was founded in 2006. President is Alphonse Karabuda, composer from Sweden. And there's a picture of their board, which recently met. Like I said, I'm going to go through these quickly just so you guys get an idea of the scale of this. The Pan-African Composer and Songwriter Association, which was formed in 2010. The president is Sam Mabende, and there's a picture of their board there, I believe was taken in Cameroon over the last few months. Music Creators North America, I have the honor of being a co-chair. We formed in 2012. And to give you an idea of the organizations here in North America that are involved, we have, I won't go through all the names, but these are organizations that are based in New York, Los Angeles, Songwriters Association of Canada, of course, here in Toronto, our Francophone Brothers, the sister organization in Quebec, SPAC, and the oldest organization, the Songwriters Guild of America, which was formed in 1931. So those are some of the organizations that are involved in Music Creators North America. Latin and South America, we have, and I won't do this justice, but it's the Alliance Latino of Composers and Authors of Music. Picture of their board recently taken. And last but certainly not least, formed in Beijing at the end of last year, is the Asia Pacific Music Creator Alliance, which was, as I said, formed last year. The president is a gentleman by the name of Shun Takura, very active in composer and author, songwriter, and music creator issues generally in Asia, and in particular based in Tokyo. Why is this so important that we have these organizations aligned around the world under one umbrella group, which is called the International Council of Authors of Music, or Creators of Music, which is based in Paris. There's the president, Lorenzo Ferraro. It's been around since 1966. So that is the alliance of all these alliances. So I know it sounds a little complicated, but in point of fact, all of these groups are now working together hand in glove to benefit the global interests of music creators around the world. And our interests are global. It's not about Canada, it's not about the States, not about any particular territory. Google is not based in one country or another. It's a global corporation. Apple is a global corporation. Many of the other technology companies, we don't have to go through them, are all based globally. So it's very important that we, as music creators, also organize around the world and speak with one strong voice. I also wanted to mention that Suzanne's organization, because they are not an actual member of the International Council of Music Creators, but artists, performers are also organizing around the world. Suzanne is instrumental. We're very fortunate to have her here in that. The International Artists Organization is based, are you guys based in Paris? Is that, yeah. So also on the performer side, now many of us who are songwriters are also performers. We're also artists. So all these organizations recognize that in fact, we really all represent basically the same people, the people who actually create the music. So I just want to hit very quickly on two global initiatives, and then I'll pass it back to Greg. Which we think are very important. And again, these are global initiatives that all of these organizations now around the world are working on together. One of them is Fair Trade Music. It was adopted globally in Costa Rica in meetings about 3 years ago now. And Fair Trade Music stands for a fair music value chain from creator to consumer and everyone in between. And that's in a nutshell. There's a lot more information at the website, fairtrademusicinternational.org. I respectfully suggest and hope you'll go to the website and drill down into more of the information there that I think, so you can understand what we're doing here. But it's not just about us. We want a fair value chain for everybody, fair, sustainable, transparent value chain for everybody in the value chain, not just the creators, although I think we all probably agree that right now music creators are the ones who seem to be most challenged when it comes to making a buck in the music business. Unfortunately, Alex Ebert, who was supposed to be on the panel, Edward Sharp and the Magnetic Zeros is his band. He's the gentleman in the white jacket in the middle. He actually designed the Fair Trade Music logo. That band was the first band to be certified as a Fair Trade Music release, meaning that they subscribe to all of the criteria, which you can see, as I said, on the website, to get certification as a Fair Trade Music compliant release, and we hope it's the first of many thousands in the days and months ahead. So the other thing, and this is the last thing I'm going to discuss, is safe harbor. And you may have heard of safe harbor. How many people have heard the term safe harbor and know what it refers to? So again, we'll get into that in the panel, but in Europe they're calling it the value gap. Other people call it extraction of value. My summary of what it means is that for many technology companies that are making literally billions of dollars from music and other creative content, it's basically a get out of jail free card. They do not have to pay us. They do not have to compensate those of us who make music fairly because of safe harbor legislation and regulation. Again, a global problem. This exists everywhere. And it's something that we have to deal with if we're ever going to get to a sustainable and transparent ecosystem, for music creators. So without fair evaluation of all kinds of creative content, we will never realize the enormous potential of the digital revolution. And I firmly believe that that would benefit all humanity, not just music creators, and we can get into that once we get into the panel discussion, why I feel that way. So that's it. Thank you very much for your attention. And there's cmcreators.org, songwriters.ca, and Fair Trade Music again. So if you guys want to visit those sites, you can find out more information. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Eddie. Thanks for that little presentation too. It's a really visual. It's a great visual aid to demonstrate, the web that we really are trying to weave together all over the world in order to, talk about our shared interests and discuss, certain solutions that are possible and helping our fellow creators in other countries. So it's thanks. Well, I don't know what the hell I'm doing because I'm the moderator, so I guess I'm just going to start somewhere. Suzanne, would you mind explaining then a lot of these were composer or author organizations, but why don't you tell us a little bit about your organization and how it's slightly different, but still the same?
Same but different. Yes, International Artist Organization, it has been created in 2015, so it's a very new organization to promote the interests of the featured artists, so I mean the leaders, the performers, and it has been founded with 6 countries, and now we are 11 countries, mainly in Europe. Now I'm happy to discover that new organizations are created in Quebec with RAM, and we are hopefully growing. We are growing, and we formed this organization because we share the same issues, and it's quite historical to be able to be gathered all together and working together on the same issues and with the same solutions. So we think we are part of the solution and not the problem. And we hopefully we need a very well balanced landscape. As artists, we work with every stakeholders. We work with record label, live promoters, with publishers, with session musicians, with we are singers, songwriters, and musicians. So we know very much about the ground, and we know how to speak to politicians about our experience. And we are learning to work with politicians to understand their world and to make them understand ours. So the idea is to do lobbying actually, because artists are artists, but it means today it's not all about creation, it's also about business, and you have to be interested in, you have to be involved, and artists have to be included in the debates. It's very important because we have many ideas to improve a better landscape, a better economy. And we need to have diversity of creations, but also diversity in the platforms. We need more platforms to live. So we don't want that Google dominate all the market. It's not the idea. We work a lot on the European Commission because there is a digital single market actuality. So we have to give input about the copyright directive and about the value gap and the safe harbor. We have the same problem. It's global. It's as Eddie Schwartz told, it's a global problem. So we have to create a global solution. And we are specifically on the featured artists because even if we are often songwriters too, we know there is Siam who has been founded in the 60s, so the songwriters are more performant on the advocacy. But we artists are new in the debate, but we face the same issues with songwriters, and it's normal and natural to work together and on the Fair Trade Music Initiative. It's a very good one. We are together in the same boat. Thanks.
Thanks. I think that's great, and I think our interests are very much aligned, and I think the more that, I mean, obviously artists are often songwriters and creators as well, but I do think that, you know, we need to understand that we do face the same dilemmas, and a lot of the solutions, like Safe Harbor, fixing Safe Harbor, or limiting Safe Harbor is part of the solution to making this ecosystem a little bit more fair. And I think it again illustrates the fact that you guys are organizing as an artist group, and the organization that we've been building over the last years is a symptom of we are not happy with the way we have been represented in this business. And we're tired of people pretending that they represent us, representing our interests in either Washington or Brussels or Ottawa. And I think what you're seeing here is a very powerful grass movement of creators trying to determine their future and being able to being, like you said, a part of the decision-making process. So if you're making decisions about something, about copyright, and you're not talking to creators, then you're not making an informed decision. And that's what we're working to stop, and that's why we're inserting ourselves into this very dull world of political lobbying and understanding the minutiae of copyright law. But it needs to get done because this affects future generations. This affects my 15-year-old's future business in the music business, you know? Like, that's why we do it. I do want to have a good conversation about fair use and Safe Harbor, but in terms of fair trade music, Saf, you've been involved in this concept the longest. Do you want to just run us through some of the early days of how that idea came around?
Yeah, sure. So in 2007, I was in law school at the University of Ottawa, and fortunate enough to have the opportunity to take a course. I think it was titled Digital Music and the Law. It was conducted by a professor named Jeremy De Beer, and was at that point a pretty unique course, so I felt, again, very fortunate that I got to take it. And during the rollout of that, it was a seminar type course, so we would basically have very loose discussions about the music industry and how the intersection with the legal framework that governs it fits and doesn't fit the modern landscape. We were at that point 2007, so just under 10 years of the music industry contracting in a significant way. In part, some would say due to file sharing, peer-to-peer downloads, things like Napster. All that stuff had already happened, so we were in a massive contraction cycle, and the music industry was in trouble. And having been a musician myself, I felt that firsthand. So it was, for me, a very enlightening conversation to speak with someone who had the legal expertise of Professor De Beer. In one of the classes, he hit upon an idea that he had been thinking about, and I think just wanted to see how we would react to it. And this was this notion of fair trade music. I think he'd been having a coffee at a really hipster coffee joint in Ottawa and realized the power of the fair trade coffee movement and how prevalent it had become. That even in the smallest shops in Ottawa, Canada, you were going to find fair trade coffee, and even in the biggest shops in Ottawa, even the multinational chain shops, you were going to find fair trade coffee. And it struck him that there was a connection, that there was a potential parallel to the music industry in that, farmers in Latin America and other developing countries were essentially getting the raw deal out of all of it when you were looking at how profits were divvied out. And the same could be said for songwriters in what was then the modern landscape of the music industry. So the notion resonated with everyone that was in that course, especially me, and I asked to meet with him and discuss it privately because I really was intrigued, and so we did, going to another coffee shop, having some more fair trade coffee, and he kind of laid out this idea of what if there were a system in place where you could ensure that the value chain from the creation of a song to you hearing to the general public being able to consume a recorded version of that song. What if that was, we could certify that? What if we could say that this process in this particular instance is fair? It's making sure that everyone on that chain is getting remunerated in a fair way, just like the coffee example. And I thought, this is a really great idea. And he went on to say, there's various ways that this could potentially be rolled out, but I think we need to do initial research, and we started to do some of that initial research. But by the time we were done that, I had graduated from law school and moved to Toronto. Enter Eddie Schwartz. How did we run into each other? Was it at some kind of conference?
Jeremy had actually been on the CBC talking about copyright reform, and I was just, and it actually had mentioned a file sharing. We were talking about monetizing file sharing, and I reached out to him and we started a conversation. And he said, you need to get in touch with Safwan Javed. So Jeremy's at the center of
Jeremy is the center.
A lot of this stuff, yeah.
Yeah, so Eddie reached out and we met and had a great discussion where we realized we were on the same page on many things. And eventually I joined on as a board member of the SAC, and at one of our meetings brought this idea to the table of fair trade music. And it was the same thing that had happened to me when I first encountered the idea. This light bulb went off in my head, and I could feel that in the room happen with everyone who was on the board. And essentially, the SAC then took it on as its next big project. That this is something we're going to champion, and we're going to take it global, and we're going to do our best to make this a reality. And I'll hand it over to Eddie to explain how he actually made that happen.
Well. The journey that you saw, all those organizations were built over, as I think you saw, except for CM, which goes back to 1966, were built mostly over the last 4 or 5 years. And the story just continued. The SAC, Songwriters Association of Canada, first of all, I'm very proud that Fair Trade Music was born in Canada. I think that's a wonderful thing. And we brought that to these other organizations through that series of alliances that I showed you in the slideshow. And everybody just adopted. Everyone said this is the first time, because if you start talking about copyright and licensing and the arcane details of copyright, you lose people very quickly. But if you talk about basic ethical, moral concepts of fairness, and that there's a notion that I think we have to dispel, that music makes no money anymore. Music is making billions of dollars. If someone comes up to you and says, well, you guys aren't getting paid because music doesn't make any money anymore on the internet, that's total nonsense. Music is making billions and billions and billions of dollars every year. The problem is all of that value is being extracted. You saw that term earlier. And what fair trade music says is that's not fair. Just like with coffee, the farmers have to be fairly compensated. They're the ones who grow the beans. So, music creators all around the world, I think just the light bulb went off. This is an easy thing to understand. Everybody understands fairness. And so it spread really kind of like wildfire through all of those organizations who have now adopted it around the world.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, is that it really comes down to, are we participating in this billion-dollar industry in a fair way? And that's at essence what fair trade music does. It establishes who is participating in that value chain, and are you being rewarded appropriately? So this isn't about making sure the labels get stiffed. Everyone in the system, the ecosystem, is getting a healthy and proportional share representative of the work that they put into it. Because we believe that if all of the stakeholders in the industry, the healthier they are, then the healthier the business is. Like if labels are getting the right amount of money and they're being treated fairly, that means they're going to sign more artists. Those artists are going to get publishing deals. The publishing deals are going to happen because the publishers are being paid fairly. So it really is about fairness. It's not about, we don't have some big communist stick that we want to bash people over the head with, but it at some level, this is becoming an ethical thing where if it's not fair, it's becoming unethical. And Luke, I want to ask you, as a guy who's still really active in the songwriting business, I mean, we've done a lot of writing together. I'm a little bit more in the audio-visual world now, but as a songwriter, writing for yourself and for others as well, what's like how have you noticed things change even since I kind of stopped doing it? You know, for the last 5 years, I sort of dropped out. Like, what am I missing? Should I come back?
Please come back. Well, Eddie just dropped a word that's I use this word a lot, arcane. It's to me become more arcane. I'm from a family, 4 boys. 2 of my brothers are doctors. One's in banking, and then there's me. And I did not inherit that savvy mind for chemistry and mathematics that they did. But even they're confused when I have kind of Christmas dinner with these guys. They're kind of like, I don't understand the music. I don't understand how you make money. Like, how does it work? And it's always been a little bit confusing and arcane, but it's become much more so. And what I like to say is, everything else aside, I don't like the notion that I'm contributing to subjugating my next favorite artist, the next Prince, or Michael Jackson, or Stevie Wonder. And I worry that the world and the way that the ecosystem is working these days, we're not nurturing some of the talent that's out there. Some of it breaks through, some of it gets signed to a label, some of it does this or that, but we're not nurturing the creative community the way that we could, the way that they're, in my, very humble estimation, we're not, the ability is there to help the next Stevie Wonder break through, but I know the feeling of getting up in the morning and just feeling like, well, I'm addicted to writing songs, I'm gonna keep writing songs and making music, but it can be very demoralizing to feel like someone else, for whatever reason, right or wrong, is getting rich from your work. And that's I have that feeling more today than ever before in my career, to give you a long answer to a short question.
Yeah, thanks. I think it is demoralizing for a lot of people, and and there's a lot of weird stories about there. The internet is the Wild West, and people's works, people's masters, people's publishing, their copyright interests they just pop up in the weirdest places, and people are making money off them, and that sort of makes me want to go back to you, Eddie. And you're talking about how the business is worth billions, but the value is being extracted, and we're not being. So there's no value left for the artists and for the creators. And I wanted you to kind of give us an example of that, and also how we've been talking lately about the tech sector versus the creative sector. And we would like to change the government's focus. They focus on the tech sector a lot because that is the future. The future is not natural resources or manufacturing. The future is tech, and it's science, and it's chemistry, and all of that. But then we sort of feel that now it's time to focus back on the creative sector, because all of this hand-holding for the tech sector has created billions and billions of profits and hundreds of billionaires. But a lot of that has been at the expense of the creative community. And that could be whether you're a screenwriter or a composer or a poet or an author, or you work on movie sets, or you work in a music studio. I mean, all of those people are not participating. So if only we could just maybe explore that a little deeper, and maybe try and connect it to this sort of catchphrase of the fair use and all of those sort of copyright phrases, because they're going to get tossed around a lot. You're going to hear them a lot, and you're going to hear them as countries are coming up to copyright reform or copyright review, which hopefully we'll get in Canada. But yeah, if you could just maybe give us some concrete examples using that terminology, I think it'll prepare all of us for the coming discussions.
Okay, thanks, Greg. So let's do a little audience participation. How many people have home internet? Pay Rogers or Bell, or so virtually everybody in the room. How many people have data on their cell phones? Okay, virtually every hand in the room goes up. Okay. So what do you pay, what's the average that you pay for internet at home? 50 bucks? Maybe 60? Probably, what would it be in Europe? 50 euros, 60 euros a month? Okay. So think about, so times 12, let's just say take 50 because it makes the math easy. And I'm sorry if this, I know this gets going to get a little mathematical, which we creative people aren't very good at, but it's pretty simple stuff. So $600 a year, $600 a year you pay to Rogers or Bell, or in the States Comcast. Okay. So how many people here think music is free on the internet? You're paying $600 a year to Rogers and Bell. If all you could do was email and shopping, would it still be worth 600 bucks a year? So this is at the root of this extraction of value. They are selling our content. And back to us, you guys who make music, who are paying 50 bucks, you're paying for your own music, right? Think about it. And not only that, but we all have our mobile accounts too. What do they cost a month? What's data cost a month on your mobile account?
At least 25.
25? Okay. So anyways, I won't do the math again. But you're probably spending about $1,000 a month for access to content. And we are receiving virtually none of that $1,000. So this is, and this has become a realization around the world. Again, it's not just a bunch of disgruntled, music creators sitting on the stage. This is a tremendous economic inequality that is affecting every one of the people in this room if you create music. I assume, how many people here are music creators of one kind or another? Okay, most of the people in the room. So this is so important for the next generation. I mean, I just want to make clear that, I grew up in an environment where I could make a middle-class living. If I did my job right and wrote songs that other people wanted to record, I could make a decent middle-class living. That's all I ever wanted to make. If I could support myself making music, I was the happiest guy in the world. That has gone away now. And it's because of that money, plus Google, plus Apple. They're selling you devices. They're taking your data, and your choices of music say a lot about you as a person. They're taking that data and selling it to people who want to sell you something. They're selling it to advertising agencies and marketing companies. So they're making money not just on those monthly fees, but also they're slicing and dicing the data and making money. So what was...
As they're profiling you.
As they're profiling you, which they're also selling your profile to advertisers and marketers. Right, I mean, we all know those ads that follow us everywhere on the internet, right? Every time you go from one page. That's all making billions, literally billions of dollars around the world. So what we're saying is that the content which is being used to drive that enormous value is worth a lot more than we're being paid. I mean, right now, I'll give you a quick example. When I sold 1 million records for a Joe Cocker or a Pat Benatar or something years ago, I would make about $45,000. Now that's not a fortune, but that kept a roof over my head and put food on the table. That same 1 million streams now in the internet, which is one source of income, pays me about $35. So from 45,000 to 35. So we are, that's the value equation we have to change.
Can you remind us, you've told me this before, but I always forget the number, and I think it really illustrates the point. The number of pro songwriters that live in Nashville, what's that decrease been? It's
down by 80. Last time I checked with NSAI, which is an organization based in Nashville, it's down by about 80%.
80%?
Yeah, 80%.
There's 80% fewer professional songwriters.
Professional songwriters in Music City, USA. So, gives you some. That's actually maybe a few years old.
I think that is a few years old.
I just want to add two things. It's in a smartphone, who is smart? The creators. I mean, the creators of the content make your phone smarter. So it's important to notice that they didn't pay their first material, and it's not a good business based on that kind of economy. And the other thing I wanted to tell is about the lack of transparency. On Deezer, which is a former French platform of streaming, but now it's Russian-American. But on Deezer, Universal asked Deezer not to not to appear. You don't know how many streams. You don't know how many times your song has been streamed. It's forbidden. It's not transparent at all. And it's all about an economy based on NDAs. It means non-disclosure agreements. So we don't know nothing. We just know that we know nothing about all that deals. And someone told about the new black box. It's a pure black box. And we have to work to open this black box and to understand better what happens, to know how much we deserve. It's first, it should start by transparency, then fair share of the value, but it's very hard. So it's the job of a fair trade music label. If you want to be fair trade music labelized, you have to open your black box a little bit.
Yeah, and speaking about transparency, sorry, I keep coming back to you, Eddie, but you explained very well. The issue that we've discussed for years is, the streaming companies like the Spotifys and the Pandoras, the ownerships, the stakeholders, and the labels that license, and how the publishers fit into the equation. Is that a little sort of recap that you're able to do in sort of 2 minutes, like how
you're talking about the advances that they receive under the again, it's a transparency issue. Suzanne said.
Yeah, and the fact that they also are participating in ownership stake.
Well, that's right. The major labels all own a piece of Spotify, so there's a massive conflict of interest. I don't know how big is Spotify in France now? Is it?
It's big, but Deezer is first still. Yeah. Still.
And so again, I just want to make a couple of things clear. We're not talking about, we don't want to put these people out of business. We support technology. Technology is great. We all enjoy and use and look forward to and are excited about new technology. But this technology is, as Greg said, is getting all the attention and all of the money. And they're making the money, obviously based on our work to a large extent. So we just want to be fairly compensated, and we want them to be fairly compensated. I will say that all of us in the music space, because of the massive extraction of value, are really, at the end of the day, fighting for the crumbs that fall off the table. Because again, if you think about all the money that's going to Google and the ISPs and the telcos and the other big tech companies, there's really nothing left so we're, in some ways, we're in the same boat as the labels, the same boat as Spotify and Pandora, all the services. We're all fighting over the crumbs. So, in fact, we have alliances that we can make. And in fact, I've been speaking to one of the vice presidents at Pandora. We've had extensive meetings with Spotify. So they get what we're saying, and they also they would like to be the good guys. They would like to be able to comply with fair trade music. So there's a lot of hope there. I don't want you, I think it's important now, we've only got a few minutes left, that we leave you with a positive message. We are in conversations with these companies. There's a lot of interest in fair trade music and streaming services and other companies. In the coming year, we plan to talk to Apple and others. So we're making progress, and they're getting that it's unsustainable for them ultimately too. They want a healthy, vibrant music business. They want you guys to succeed. If you succeed, they sell more devices and they sell faster internet speed. So that's where fair trade music, I think, if I can just end there, I think there's a lot of hopeful stuff going on as far as that goes.
Yeah, and it's not, you're right, it's not all doom and gloom, but, there's ideas about some of these streaming services even starting their own labels, and so it's just way more of a direct loop between artist and creator and distributor. Then that means that they're paying less in licensing fees, and, there's lots of creative things that are coming out there. There's been talk of having a streaming service that's run by artists and, basically operates on probably the similar, the sort of criteria that fair trade music would come up with for them to operate like. But yeah, there is hope, and we are working hard. So, I think you should remember that when you join groups like the SAC and artist coalitions, that you're participating in a solution. You're participating in helping us do our job. I mean, we all volunteer for this, and it's fun to go to LA and sit on my ass for 2 days at a boardroom and talk to my fellow creators, but it's a lot of work and it takes time and it takes resources. So I just, all of your support for any creator organization is very much appreciated. Sorry, Luke, did you want to add something?
Well, is that, like, to your point, actually, would a Fair Trade Music look at doing some kind of streaming service that is run by and for the people kind of thing? Is that something that's...
In a word, yes. I mean, I think we're in the early stages of many discussions, but that is one that that discussion has begun. And
That's
the potential,
exciting.
yeah, the potential for that is there. I don't know if I'm at liberty to go any further with it.
Oh, I like the way that sounds, though. It's the mystery shrouded like that.
If I could just get a little informal poll, if I was going to open this up to some questions and answers, who would be interested in doing that, or should we just keep yapping up here? Would someone like to ask questions? So we got a few, so we should leave. Is it 1:45?
2 minutes left, so go quick.
There's 2 minutes left? Oh, who asked? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, what do you think, Eddie? You were in the panel. I think it was you, Eddie, who suggested blockchain. Service called application called blockchain.
Yeah.
Everything is embedded that you can't.
Yep.
Every single person in the blockchain get their.
The problem with blockchain is, I'm going to just jump in because I know we've got a whole bunch of questions. Blockchain is a technology that, like all technologies, can be used for good or ill. I think there's a lot of buzz about blockchain, but I wouldn't put too much. There's been many other technologies over the years. Yeah, I mean, it still can be controlled from a central source for its own purposes. So yes, I think in theory it could be very helpful. Whether it will be used for the benefit of everybody or just the people who have the most to gain. So let's go to another question, because we can talk about this. But yeah, blockchain is a big buzzword, but you got to watch it very carefully.
Yeah. What can the artists do with regards to helping the fair trade? I mean, I know you guys do the heavy lifting, but I just want to figure out. I know there's some things that I know that's happening. For example, Spotify, where their mode of paying is pretty much a royalty rate that's based on a mechanical rate.
Yeah, I mean, when you start getting into the details, it can make your head spin. I think the easiest way to help is by joining an organization like the SAC or the Guild or Suzanne's organization, in Europe, and it's following the news. It's following what's happening. It's also sharing that information amongst your peers. Like people, we need to educate each other. So if you're following a blog about music technology and you see a good article, share it on your feed so that other people can see it and pick up and we start talking. We need to have these discussions. I'm being wildly told to stop. So is it time for me to stop?
Oh, I've got 2
Yeah.
minutes too. Let's have one more, please.
One more question.
Considering that streaming makes nothing for musicians in terms of income, what can artists do to be compensated as much as possible for recorded music?
Well, I mean, it's not that it doesn't compensate. It does. It's just very, very small numbers, So you have to participate in a variety of different ways these days. So you have to have it as a download on iTunes. You have to be able to get it up on Spotify or on another platform. You have to make physical sales for when you have live shows, or at least physical, like as a USB stick or a key or a download key. And
Yeah, I think the image is very important. It's your label. Your label is valuable. This is the value. Yeah.
And come join us so we can change the landscape so Spotify does pay out properly.
Join the SAC.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you to my fellow panelists. Thanks to Canadian Music Week. And keep looking around. There's lots of good information out there.